Wow, Javier Milei's win in Argentina could be a boon for cryptocurrency. This comes at the same time as Vivek Ramaswamy is actually pledging to rescind most federal regulations on digital assets, which is weird because I'm like, what regulations? I think what he's suggesting is that if the SEC is trying to limit or keep a foot on the ability of crypto firms to launch crypto ETFs or otherwise crypto products, then we should have less regulation, which is really weird because less regulation is exactly what led to the disasters of FTX, Voyager, Celsius, and BlockFi, and Terra Luna, as well as Three Arrows Capital and the other hedge funds before it. This is pretty wild. Remember Bill Hwang, the guy who absolutely got destroyed going 20x leverage on $1 billion? That's a lack of regulation and oversight. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not here to bag on Ramaswamy. I'm just suggesting, like, wow, that's a little bit of a surprise. I thought you might go from the angle of we're going to regulate it good and it'll be good for the crypto community, as opposed to we're just going to get rid of the regulation that there is. And it's like, there already is very little. So I thought that was interesting by Ramaswamy. While at the same time, though, we just had obviously a massive change in Argentina that is a catalyst for Bitcoin. We have been seeing Bitcoin move up on this news, and I want to get into the weeds from a political point of view on what this means for Argentina. So first of all, Mr. Javier Milei has made it very clear that he is a proponent of Bitcoin, and he is also a proponent of moving Argentina to the United States dollar. So let's break this apart a little bit because the easiest way to do this, I believe, is visually, because it's a little bit complicated if I just talk about it and then we can't put the pieces of the puzzle together. So why not just do it visually? So I think on one side, you're going to have a Bitcoin, and then on the other side, you're going to have the US dollar for Argentina, right? And I think something that's very critical to pay attention to on the Bitcoin side is Bitcoin is seen as anti-establishment. Not only is it seen as anti-establishment, but his candidacy was anti-establishment. He was anti-politician. He was basically the, Diet Trump of Argentina. Make Argentina great again is what Trump told him after he won and congratulated him. Some see him as a Vivek, right? Cut the waste of government spending. These are some of the principles that we're getting from Javier, President Milei, and what these align with is a very anti-establishment, a libertarian point of view. This is very libertarian, so it makes complete sense that he would be a supporter of Bitcoin. However, there is a potential downside in the short term for the reality of Bitcoin potentially coming to Argentina. And that, in my opinion, is you need function, right? You need usability and accessibility now. So you have an economic disaster in Argentina. So what you need to do first is bandage it. How do you bandage it? You cut spending. You get a stable currency, which is basically just peg to or use the dollar, right? If you peg to, you have to maintain the peg, which could be okay because that would allow them to money print in the future, allows future money printing. And I understand that most people who enjoy Bitcoin because you can't print money. But let's understand, I hate fiat currency as well, but the way monetary policy and fiscal policy work together is that the government, the fiscal side, spends money and the monetary side prints it. When people lose trust in their government because the government has printed too much, the value of the currency goes down. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, I don't trust any government. Right. You probably shouldn't. But what you might then ask yourself is, well, which country do you trust more? The Argentinian government or the United States government? And we can evaluate that very simply by looking at inflation. Inflation being 143% in Argentina and say, 4% in US means for all intents and purposes, the US dollar brings price stability to Argentina day one. That's actually a very big deal because now you could stabilize the government, stabilize your plans, cut spending, and give people hope again. This is very important. This is an immediate solution. I do think there's a chance that Bitcoin could be a long-term solution for Argentina. However, it's probably unlikely to be the sole solution. The reason I say that, and we'll write that down here so we're very clear about this, unlikely sole solution. The reason I think it would be unlikely to be the sole solution is because you can't money print, right? The ability to print is too desirable for governments. So I don't know that you'll ever get away from this. You'll probably be more like Ecuador, where you are able to use Bitcoin as legal tender, right? Legal tender. And potentially this means reserves of BTC being held by the Argentinian government. And therefore, you're inducing not only demand, but also creating a functional use, or I should say, maybe utilizing. You're creating a use, Argentinian currency. So let's take a look at a little bit of what the street thinks about this. So if you look at CoinDesk, for example, we have this quick summary on the fact that he wins or has won. But when it comes to Bitcoin, let's see here. Where is it? Here we go. Okay. Bitcoin is approaching recent highs in Argentina following a pro-Bitcoin win by Javier Milei. We have to be careful pricing Bitcoin in Argentinian pesos because the peso is pretty dang wrecked right now. However, the stock market in Argentina is actually rallying following Javier Milei's win because people are like, oh my gosh, finally there might come some stability. So I don't think it's entirely unreasonable to look at the surge that you're seeing relative to Argentinian pesos. It's dramatic. You're seeing a really nice move up in the price of Bitcoin denominated in Argentinian pesos. But again, everything is going up because there's the belief that somebody's actually going to finally reduce government's excess spending and corruption, which that's kind of what every politician ultimately ends up promising. The reality of it occurring might be a little different. But anyway, this is worth seeing. It is happening. I don't want to take any credit away from this. When asked for the potential of Bitcoin as a monetary alternative in an interview, the first thing that we have to understand, says Milei, is the following, quote, "The central bank is a scam. It is a mechanism by which politicians cheat good people with an inflationary tax." This is 100% correct. So I want to write that down over here, okay? So Milei has made it very clear central banks are a scam and that they are an inflationary tax on users. This is correct. I want to be very clear about this. This is very, very accurate. The question is, the unknown is some inflation better than deflation? Technically, it depends who you are, okay? Well, so let's write that down. If you're a saver, deflation is better because your purchasing power goes further. If you're a debtor, inflation, some inflation is better. And obviously, our monetary regime today is built on the velocity of money, fractional reserve banking, and basically being able to turn $1 into $10. And so if you reward savers over debtors, you potentially cause a deep, dark recession, if not depression. So the reality is we're probably not going to see inflation go away anytime soon. So as much as that's a scam because we want to see prices come down, it's probably not going to go away anytime soon. But I want to be clear, Milei's not wrong. He is right with what he says. He says, quote, "Bitcoin represents the return of money to its original creator, the private sector. Bitcoin has an algorithm that will one day reach a certain amount and there will be no more that can be created. And it will not be able to compete with any other currencies. because Bitcoin is a natural reaction to central bank scammers and our desire to make money private again. That's a great line, by the way. Bitcoin is a natural reaction to central bank scammers. Wow. I don't know how JPOW feels about hearing that one. However, despite drawing some parallels to Ecuador, not Ecuador, El Salvador, my bad. This is, I meant to say El Salvador. I'm sorry. El Salvador. There we go. My bad. All right. Despite drawing some parallels to El Salvador, who gave Bitcoin legal tender status in 2021, Milei does not seem to favor it as a legal tender status yet. And again, that's because I believe they need stability first. So go to the dollar first, get stability. Maybe it's more of like a long-term or second-term thing. I wouldn't be making bets that it's definitely coming as legal tender immediately, though there's a lot of enthusiasm for that. And Milei is very clearly anti, central bank abuses. Although what's actually kind of weird, and then I'm going to write this one down, weird middle ground here, okay? Milei, and I'm going to give you the source on this, okay? This is Cointelegraph, suggests that, hold on. Okay. Yeah. Okay, let me be very clear about this. Milei, so I guess I wouldn't really call it a weird middle ground. I would say it's probably the middle ground, just to kind of see what it is. Per Cointelegraph, Milei is anti-CBDC, as most people in the crypto community are, and is pro-BTC, but the allegation is that just not yet, so to speak. I shouldn't put quotes on that, but that's just the gist I'm getting here. So just not yet is the idea here. So I'm putting this sort of in the middle ground, because that's how you get sort of the bridge between these two. Let me see here. This is a big deal. Now, a lot of people, and this is the flip side, I want to be real about implementation here. So let's understand this as well. Let's kind of just draw a line over here for a second. The next problem is implementation. So it's very easy as a politician to have plans. Plans as a politician are easy. Action is hard. And so what you really need, in my opinion, is to make sure, do you have the support of the military? Now, I'm not trying to be extreme here, but if you don't have the support of the military, have you ever heard of a coup d'etat, a military overthrow of the government? It's entirely possible. So, you have to think that if somebody comes in and says, hey, I'm going to fire, say, 50% of the government, what if, yellow's too hard to read. Sorry about that. What if people just overthrow Milei? That would be a problem, right? We obviously wouldn't want to see that happen. We would want to see success in his plans and for his country, because the country needs it. So making sure that he's able to implement any of his ideas, big deal. Now, again, I want to be very clear. First priority, first stop is going to the dollar. Seeing just the implementation to the dollar will be a shock. Once you get through that and you get government stability without a government overthrow, that's the order. Think about it. Number one, transition to dollar, stabilize country. 3, don't get overthrown. Then wait. Then go legal tender BTC, maybe / likely. That's the path that I see for Bitcoin in Argentina. So it's not a near-term catalyst, it's a long-term catalyst. I actually think you're going to see that a lot. It's not only going to be the what's it called? Countries like El Salvador or Argentina. You're going to see this at developing countries throughout the entire world. I think you're going to see it in Sudan, maybe even countries in the Middle East, certainly throughout Africa, poor countries in South America, no doubt. I do believe that either a peg to the dollar or BTC adoption will come, and it will be a very strong catalyst for BTC in the longer run. The question is, does it end up petering out like a gold? that's a near, or I would say a long-term downside risk of BTC, is it ends up doing a gold. So look at gold since 2020. You're range bound here. This is through an IAU, fund basically. But you can see this longer term range that you have, and you're stuck. And this is even though you have a quasi finite supply of gold. Obviously, you could still mine gold, but it's so limited and so rare. So there is this idea that, is there a ceiling that you can get to for some form of precious limited supply currency? And is there then potentially a ceiling for BTC? Or as adoption increases, do you follow the Cathie Woodian argument that you're going to $1 million for sure? Both are entirely possible. I think they're worth considering, and usually it's pretty rare to kind of think about the alternative perspectives. But that's always my goal, is just try to take an unbiased point of view and look at both sides as much as possible. So this is a big deal. Milei's fight against inflation will be critical. And we'll see if they just end up defaulting on some of the IMF loans that they have, or some of the other bonds that they have, which honestly they probably should if they're going to go to the USD. Otherwise, they're just not going to be able to transition. So you'll probably see some defaults, which could affect their credit rating, but you need to transition out of this hole. So I'm going to say for number one, likely includes some defaults on old debts, unfortunately, which does creates credit and interest rate risk. So we shall see. These are some of the thoughts here. So let's take a peek at what some of the comments here have. Congress spends and then the Fed tries to balance and give Fed power back. Well, yeah, exactly. Cheers from Argentina. Hello, welcome. Awesome. Buy the Argentinian dip. You have a big old rally over there right now. Love to see Japan deflation in the USA, but the Fed won't let that happen. Exactly. That is exactly correct. So that's my politics update for now. Thank you so very much. Stay tuned for a main channel video on NVIDIA dropping in about the next 20 minutes. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.